yes, it probably is predominantly women who write about fashion, but so many people can. I mean, if you think about people's blogs, there are so many style blogs out there now, and I honestly don't even think about it at this point.
Yeah.
I still think it's funny that sometimes there in this city there are still events that are like women only, involving style, and I'm like, well, that's really peculiar. Only because I just think style, I mean, man, female, whatever, male, female, everyone has the chance.
I think it's changed. There was a time when a lot of the fashion editors were male, and they were the ones in charge of what was being written about, even if they were assigning it to someone else. And writing about fashion, you know, I write about fashion, but I also write gossip and you know, social stuff too. That is distinctly not a traditional woman's thing.
Ultimately, that's the question of our time right now. Not necessarily is this a women's role or a female's role, but is this a female image role or male image role? Being a designer or being within the fashion world.
Do I feel like I'm working in a traditional women's area? I would have to say, at this point in life, yes, I do think so.
It's across the board with kind of attitudes and perception, what people perceive. And it just is what it is, you know. A lot of times people ask me what do I do, and so I don't have to have the discussion. I usually just say I'm a writer, and then usually it's, well, what do you write? And then, well, like, you know, I'm not, or, you know, I just say I'm a writer for the Statesman, and I walk, you know, keep going. But literally, they're always intrigued and they want to know more.
Are they going to presume that it's shallow and superficial? Oh, yeah, that's a distinct possibility. But usually within just a couple of minutes, I can prove them wrong. That I'm anything but shallow and superficial about it.
Yeah, for me, I guess the stigma then comes from not so much necessarily being a male, but just being a straight male in a predominantly female or, you know, effeminate, considered to be an effeminate industry that is sort of focused within looks and less so about, you know, personality. There is also this notion that, you know, you are shallow about it, and I think fashion, while at times can be shallow, overall has a deep, deep core of being intensely creative, intensely individualistic, and intensely philosophic, and having this idea that one wants to share with the world of perceptions and design aesthetics.
What assumptions are they going to make that I'm gay? Uh-oh.
When you say to some Texans that you're writing for fashion, there is that implicit association that, oh, so you're a male, so then you must then be gay, you know, and that must be your preference, and that's who you are, without even asking or talking to you about that at all.
It affects it a great deal. You know, I will say what I think, you know, and I'm known to absolutely gush over the top if I love something, and to be vicious if I don't. And, I mean, to me, everything is either fabulous or hideous. There's no in between.
And there are certain things that I have no working physical or working knowledge of. I know them by pop culture, by TV, by my female friends, but it's very few. I mean, you know, I love shoes, so you know, when I go to Neiman Marcus, I look at all. You know, I'm much more interested in women's shoes than I am in the men's shoes. They just are architecturally much more intriguing.
I guess, you know, I mean, inherently I am a male. I have all the qualities of it. I don't sometimes have the sensibility of it, but I also know that I don't look at clothes like women do. Women's clothes, especially. And because I'm not a woman, and so it is an outside perspective, even though I've spent my life, you know, my column is called After a Fashion, but obviously it's not purely fashion, but it started out almost being exclusively fashion. But when they gave me more space and moved me, they wanted a little broader thing on it. And Marcus pretty much has to do fashion, but you know, he'll do the anatomy of so-and-so's closet and things like that. It's like, this is what makes it seem like traditional women's stuff right there. You know, I will chew into fashion with grinding my teeth and feathers flying and tear it apart, you know, to see what makes it tick and talk about it. And I think in that approach, it's neither male nor female traditionally. I think that it is simply having that passion for whatever it is you're covering.
What I think, though, is that people sometimes feel very comfortable. This, you know, oh, you're the fashion writer.
And obviously, I don't care about many things that are supposed to be traditionally male or female. You know, I cross over all the time, you know. I usually have a great big fan in my hand, you know, and it says, oh, I love your fan. That was so smart for you to bring it. And it's like, we all need fans all the time, honey. Fans are the most important thing on earth.
Or so, you know, they just feel like they can relate a little bit more, probably, than, oh, you're a business writer, so you're here to write about my business, and you're going to get into my finances and ask me all these crazy questions. I mean, I'll still ask you all those questions, but because I'm doing my job. I mean, it's different because people just assume that, like, oh, you're the style writer, you know, that I may not have any real depth or questions. And the bottom line is, I was also a police reporter, I was a sports reporter, you know, as I said, a business reporter. I was a TV writer in my last job, and, you know, I covered a big scandal. And there, you know, I've done so many different types of reporting. I've interviewed, you know, families that had to deal with September 11th. I've dealt with people who, you know, died, people who've had cancer, you know, all sorts of people. So once people get past that idea that, oh, you're just going to ask me about pretty clothes, they realize that, you know, the real gift is getting people to open up, and that's what I'm pretty good at doing.
Being specifically someone who's straight in the fashion industry, it's different, and especially for me, because I do have that theater background, and so I'm very sort of, you know, I'll get flamboyant, I'll get enthused about things, I'll get very sort of, you know, what some people might stereotype as homosexual, and I never really thought that there should be a stereotype as one way or the other.
I get more hate mail from men. I think a lot of women identify more with my point of view in that I am not going to praise something just because it's a new trend.
Being a male in the fashion realm, I don't necessarily shades your view. If anything, you are aware of these constructions and fabrications of male and female, but you're almost more so encouraged to play with them and to find your own voice within that.
I really do think, you know, there are male fashion writers, the LA Times and New York Times. We're all over the place, you know. You know, I think about someone like Andre Leontali at Vogue, who, you know, was, I think he was the bureau chief for Women's Wear Daily before he went to Vogue. And so men are all over the place in fashion.
I think there definitely are more men interested in it than I could say probably around the turn of the century, probably when fashion was still considered to be a female role of designing and sewing and, you know, going to a home ec class, and that's what you learned and everything like that.
As the blogosphere explodes or implodes on itself, we will find a lot of people who, you know, males who are writing about fashion as they see it, even if it's in their town, you know, rather than an international scene. And I think that because of the general attitude that that everyone can do this, that there are more and more males entering into it.
I think, it's a really good time to be in fashion. So many things are changing about the industry, and I'm talking about reporting on it. People have blogs, videos and video blogs, and there's so many avenues now. So a lot of people can have voices in fashion.